Hey everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Axetivities with your host, Ben Axe. We have a loaded episode for you all today. Really excited about it. It's all about the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, located just outside Louisville, Kentucky. It's an amazing, gothic-looking building, and there's some stuff going on. My wife, Dena, and I had the opportunity of doing a 2-hour ghost hunt there last weekend. Heard some pretty crazy things, and she'll be joining me here in just a little bit to basically just talk about our tour, doing the rundown of the tour. Also here in just a few minutes, my buddy Eric will be joining us to talk about his story from the building, as he went there a few years ago as well. And yeah, guys, pretty awesome place. So if you haven't heard of it, again, it's the Waverly Hills Sanatorium right outside Louisville, Kentucky. Not to be confused with a sanitarium. A sanatorium is any institution that provides treatment for a chronic illness. And the Waverly Hills Sanatorium was a TB hospital for tuberculosis. And basically, it was that from 1910 to 1962. It worked as a running TB hospital. And back then, their idea was fresh air, sunlight, healthy food was a good cure for TB, or at least good enough to prevent the illness from spreading and to make the symptoms not as bad. And yeah, so like before that, just kind of give you a brief history of that before we get into the good ghost stuff. In 1883, the property was bought by Major Thomas H. Hayes, and there was no school in the area, so he built a one-room schoolhouse on the property for his daughter. And then in 1910, Louisville was experiencing a really bad epidemic with TB. It was kind of taken over, so they went to that property and they built a hospital. And it was a functioning TB hospital, again, from 1910 to 1962. And then in 1943, a new steroid came into effect that really helped the symptoms go away. And then by the time 1962 came around, they were able to transport all of the patients from the hospital to other hospitals, regular hospitals as they call it, and they became kind of outpatients then. And so that building sat vacant for a couple of years, and then in 1963, it became the Woodhaven Geriatric Center, They came to the Woodhaven Geriatric Center, and it was that from 1963 to 1982, and unfortunately, it was found that they were not treating their patients properly. There was a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, a lot of patients who were being chained up. I'm not saying held against their will, but if you were chained up, you're there against your will, right? And just kind of, not a good environment, probably being experimented on just a little bit. And so that's where a lot of the negative stuff comes into effect, I think. But it is kind of a positive experience to go there because when it was the TB hospital from 1910 to 62, it was kind of an uplifting place as they were there to cure you. The facility was so large, it had its own zip code, its own post office, its own water treatment plant, and it was its own little community. People were married there. People, lived their lives there. So it was, it's an interesting place because of that fact. But, again, it was a TB hospital where they had no cure. So unfortunately, there was a lot of deaths. And they estimate right around just over 6,000 people died there. And that's a lot, a few hundred a year. And because the deaths were so much and their goal was to keep everybody happy and positive, they had to figure out a way to get the bodies out of there without the patients seeing it every day. Because if you're just seeing dead bodies get wheeled out every day, that's going to kind of hurt your will a little bit, right? So they used what they call the death tunnel, which was actually already installed. It was there for coal, I guess, back in the day. But they just used this death tunnel that was right outside the morgue. It went from the building all the way down to the train tracks. And basically they would just wheel the dead bodies out the death tunnel, as they call it, load them up on the train, and then wheel them out of there. And so any kind of building that has this kind of history, it was a hospital for right around 50 years, over 6,000 deaths, and then turned into a different kind of hospital where people were abused, neglected, chained up. All kinds of activity, right? And in 2001, the current owners, Charles and Tina Mattingly, bought the building, and it's currently a major haunted tourist attraction. I think they do October haunted houses, and then you can do historical tours, you can do short paranormal tours, is what we did, and you can also do an overnight paranormal investigation, which Dena and I and at least 8 others will be doing sometime next year. I do say next year. I would love to do it sooner, but they are completely booked for the overnight tours until next year. So I got to hop on that when I get the opportunity. Yeah, guys. So that's the brief rundown of Waverly Hills. It's only around 5 minutes long, and there's way more to it than what I just mentioned. So I do recommend, if you're not familiar with the building, look it up. It's considered to be one of the most haunted locations in America, as you can guess. It's been on Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventurers, Paranormal Lockdown, and now it's on the Paranormal Activities podcast. So let's get right to it. So like I mentioned earlier, my buddy Eric, he was there, I don't even know how many years ago, several years ago, and he had something happen. So let's just bring him on. Welcome to the show, a good friend of mine, a good brother of mine, Eric. What's going on, brother?
Oh, nothing much. How are you, dude?
Living the dream, man. So this whole thing's been about the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and you just happened to have gone to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and this is one of those times we didn't go together. You went separately, I went separately, and when you went, you actually had something go down. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of. Yep. Yeah, back in 2007, I think, I think September of 2007, my older brother and I decided to go on a trip to Louisville. So before we went on our trip, we saw a documentary about Waverly Sanatorium there, and because we find that stuff kind of fun to check out, like haunted places and everything, we decided to go there, and they did night tours at the time. So we scheduled a 2-hour tour ahead of our trip. We were informed to bring a flashlight because the tour was at night and there were, no lights installed in the building yet. So just to cut in there, many people who know me, they know that I'm a pretty meticulous planner.
Sure.
So for this trip, I planned ahead like usual, and well, at the time, I had started the police academy, and before you start that academy, you get a list of equipment you need to buy, and for some of that equipment, they tell you that it's smart to splurge a little on some of it because you may end up using it for a long time after starting your career. So one of the things I splurged on was a mag light, a flashlight. I'm sure you know what those were back in the day.
Sure.
This one in particular had an LED bulb in it. Granted, today's rechargeable flashlights, the LED ones especially, are much better. But at the time, Maglite was, one of the top flashlights for police work. Especially since I got the one with the LED bulb, Maglites were considered pretty rugged and reliable. My brother, on the other hand, he had one of the first ones that were rechargeable flashlights, kind of what we carry now.
Gotcha.
And I'll have more on that later. But so on top of having that new flashlight from the police academy, what was supposed to be a reliable bulb, I also purchased new batteries for the flashlight since I had been using it at the academy and stuff like that. So I did that because, while I'm not necessarily concerned about, ghosts or anything at sanitarium, I also didn't want to be in that building without any light. And I also didn't want to get lost somewhere because, as you know, we don't always follow the tour guides when we're supposed to.
And that's what makes it the most fun,
Exactly. So anyway, the day came and we arrived at the sanitarium. We watched the history video. Then we took the 2-hour guided tour. I'd say there were like 15 or 20 other people there. During the tour, the guides would only let you use the lights when we came across like a dangerous obstacle, like stairway or something, or there was something cool that they wanted you to see and you needed your flashlight for. Otherwise they thought it was more fitting to experience the tour with as little light as possible.
Right.
This also let kind of your eyes adjust to the dark and help. I think maybe they were doing it too, like reflections from certain things might cause people to think they saw an orb or something, and they just kind of wanted to limit that interference, so people could have an authentic thing, So anyway, we couldn't use our flashlights unless the guide told us to turn them on. Overall, really, the tour was kind of uneventful for me, though. it was creepy, but it just seemed like an empty building.
Dark.
With the guide trying to make it, yeah, definitely dark. The guide seemed like he's trying to make it spookier than it really was. But in the end, the tour ends at like kind of their grand finale is a walk down the death tunnel, or death chute, I think some people call it. And the tunnel it's like, I think it's 500 feet long. It's through the sanitarium sits on top of that hill, and it's through the hill from the sanitarium. I think it starts in the morgue, and so when patients of the tuberculosis would die, they would go to the morgue, and in order to kind of keep morale up for the living patients, they didn't want to have thousands of bodies going through the building out the front door. So they built this tunnel there through the hill. The tunnel from the morgue would end up on the street down below the hill there. And I mean, it's a pretty long tunnel. 500 feet's quite a ways.
That's no joke.
Dark, so
all the way down.
Yeah. On one side of the tunnel there's steps, and then the other side is now it's just kind of a ramp, but it had rails on it where they would have like this gurney or something where they would just be able to cable dead bodies down the tunnel to the hearse that were waiting at the bottom of the hill there. So anyway, I don't usually get freaked out by ghosts or anything, but dead bodies, on the other hand, they're pretty creepy to me.
That's fair.
And and the death tunnel was pretty instrumental in removal of like thousands of dead bodies. Like tens of thousands actually, I think is how many really died there in that building. So we're standing in the morgue, and because it's pretty dark down there, and we needed our flashlight because it would be dangerous for us to walk down without it. So we're walking. They kind of stagger the groups. I don't know if they did this for your tours, but for us, me and my brother walked down together, but we weren't with anybody else with our group. Mainly so that you had kind of more of a private experience, and you weren't tripping over the group in front of you or behind you.
Right.
So anyway, we're headed down the tunnel. I'd say like 10 minutes passes by, maybe halfway down the tunnel, because we're taking our time looking around and stuff. And my brother's flashlight dims and just goes out. Now, that was probably a battery issue on his. It was rechargeable. He'd been kind of using it all night during the tour and stuff. So then it's whatever. My light still works, and we're walking. I'm probably picking on him, telling him that's why you get new batteries. That's why you buy a nice flashlight,
You're right.
So anyway, we get to the bottom, look out, you can see the road or whatever, where the hearse would pull up. We end up going back up the hill, or the tunnel up the stairs. And again, pretty much that same spot where my brother's flashlight went out, my flashlight goes out.
Jesus.
Completely out, no dimming. It's almost like, it was really weird. So, I'm shaking it around, trying to get it to work. It's not working. And we're in the middle of this tunnel. It's pitch black. So fortunately, like, the group behind us came up pretty quick, and there was enough light from their lights that we could still see the walk. So we get to the top. We're back in the morgue. And, I'm telling my brother, I got super weird. I specifically planned for this, didn't want my flashlight to go out. And here we are. We're in the worst part of this whole thing. Both of our lights are out. It's just weird, really weird,
Absolutely.
But whatever. We kind of shake it off. The tour's over. We, we're going to go back to Louisville, where we were staying downtown there. And as we're driving away, we're about halfway down the hill, and I'm trying to mess with my flashlight still, like wondering how this worked. Well, I push the button, and it turns back on. So, I don't know, but definitely a weird experience, because since then, I still have that flashlight. I don't use it on duty anymore or anything, but it still works. So, just kind of a really weird situation where both of our lights went out in the same spot in that death tunnel there.
Sure, absolutely. And I think I missed it. When did your light turn back on? Like when you came up the tunnel, when did it come back on? At what point in the tunnel?
After the tour was over, after we left the sanitarium property there.
Gotcha.
So we had left the property altogether, and going back down the hill, there's a windy road that goes back down to whatever that highway is down there or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, the fact that 2 flashlights went out, and I think I knew that your flashlight went out. I'm not sure I remembered your brother's going out. So yeah, the fact that 2 flashlights went out in the same spot, that's,
Yeah, relatively same spot. I mean, I can't guarantee it was the exact same step or anything,
Sure.
but, because there's a lot of steps in there. But, I wasn't really worried about anything else in this whole tour. But I really wasn't sure about going down the death chute because it seemed eerie to begin with.
It is. It's just black.
Because it's a big part of the documentaries,
Oh, yeah.
when you see them on TV. So
Sure.
But
Okay.
yeah,
I believe that. And it's kind of funny, your profession and dealing with that flashlight. And when we were there over the weekend, they told a story. And I'm not sure if they told it on your tour or not back in the day. But they mentioned how they had something going on there and they had to call in a SWAT team for something that happened. And that SWAT team ran out of that same death tunnel. They were like, nope, like we can deal with live people all day, but there's, shit down there growling at us and running after us. And we can deal with live people, but not dead people. So
really, that's interesting.
Maybe there's something with that tunnel and your profession that just doesn't go hand in hand.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
That's pretty crazy.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many stories of things that go on in that building, from the tour guests to what happened back when it was actually operational. So
Yep.
I'm sure you have your stories too. So.
Yep. I mean, it's a lot of history. There's a lot going on. And, ghost or not, there's, it's still a weird energy and a lot of coincidences, so who knows?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
All right, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate your story. That was awesome. And seriously, the only death chute story that I really have heard of, from people who I know who have gone there or even like people on the internet. I'm in a few groups and stuff, and nobody really has a death chute story. So that's pretty epic in my opinion. I really like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just strange that, you plan ahead just specifically for that not to happen. There it happened. So.
2 flashlights like that's pretty wild. And you mentioned too, there are 2 different kind of flashlights. You have your rechargeable one and then your LED prime time flashlight, and both go out.
Yeah, and then even stranger that it turns back on once we leave.
Yep, absolutely.
With new batteries, it's just I don't know. I don't know the science behind flashlights.
Sure.
It seems pretty basic, but to not work once it went out until we left the property, another whole strange thing that happened there. So.
Yep, absolutely. It's hard to ignore that, I guess.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show and telling that story. It was awesome, and great talking to you.
Yep, good talking to you, man.
Again, big thanks to Eric for hanging out on the show today and telling us his story. It's a good one. I love the 2 flashlights. It's definitely creepy. And if you guys have seen the death tunnel, it's even creepier because it's literally pitch black in that tunnel. But now, moving on. Now, she's a returning guest. My wife, Dena, is going to be here in just a second to talk about what we experienced in our 2-hour tour and, kind of explain what we went through. So, introducing again to the show, my wife, the wife of Ben of Paranormal Axetivities. How's it going?
Hi, wife of.
I mean, you're the wife of.
I am the wife of.
I mean, that's a fact.
Is this Lord of the Rings?
If you go to the courthouse, they tell you.
Son, sister, son.
Daughter of.
Daughter of, yeah.
It's like an end game when you have to go to the tower and the Red Skull guy is like,
yeah,
Steve Rogers, daughter of. Wait, that's not right.
I'm here for the other. I speak to the other fandoms.
Yeah.
I don't do the Marvel as much as you.
Missing out.
Yeah.
I said I'd watch Lord of the Rings. We haven't done it yet.
Yeah, extended though. That's the rules.
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes longer. It's fine.
Each film, yeah. That's roughly, yeah, because it's like a few extra. And what pisses me off about it is like it's just a few extra seconds from each scene. It's not one
Sure.
whole new scene. It's a few extra seconds.
It's like watching the Super Friends, or not Super Friends, but the fan extended episodes of The Office on Peacock.
Yeah, it's like you guys cut it here. You could have finished the joke, right?
Seriously.
It's the same. It's exactly the same. It's like you could have finished. It wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
That's what she said.
We've all seen the Titanic. I mean, yeah, she could have finished as well.
I mean, yeah, there was definitely room on that board. But if you watch that though, Jack tries to get on it.
He does, and they try to explain through science that like weight distribution and velocity or whatever other sciencey words there are.
All you had to do was try like 3 more times.
Yeah,
They gave up so quick.
Here's what I know about how that kind of shit works
Like
is
the Nazis.
I listened to Mitch Hedberg, and he does a joke about the buoyancy of citrus and how like fruit doesn't sink and you just need to hang on to the fruit.
Yeah.
That's what they should have been looking for.
Fruit?
Kitchen staff need to be looking for the fruit.
I'm pretty sure the kitchen staff was still cooking while I was thinking.
Could have been, yeah.
Anyway, we are here tonight because we went on a pretty awesome paranormal tour of the infamous Waverly Hills Sanatorium located in Louisville, Kentucky over the weekend. And I was there like 12 years ago.
Yeah, but how many times have you been there in total?
2 now.
2. Oh, so with me and then the other time?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought you had been there more than once.
Nope. Just the one time before you.
Okay.
But I remembered it being a pretty high active, intense place. But that being said, I don't think I saw anything back then. But
I believe that.
1, I had a flip phone. 2.
No, wait. 2, when you and I first got together, the way that you kind of were set up to view things was a lot more confrontational, I think, than you are now.
Sure.
You're more open now, so
Sure.
it changes.
Sure. I was like 21.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there's that.
And I was a douchebag when I was 21.
Oh, come on.
So you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So going into this time, I was definitely a lot more open, a lot more ready. But like I say that, but I still remembered it being a high active place. And I knew when we went, it'd be a high active place, and that you're gonna feel some shit.
Yes.
And I just that's just how that place is. You don't mess like it's high active. The energy is there, and yeah. So we went
We did. We've gone to Mansfield together twice now.
Yep.
And in comparison, so like the things that I could see at Mansfield, it was like I saw a lot of like it was like pulsating or like energy vibrations. You know what I mean? Like I could feel that the air move, right?
Sure.
But when we went to Waverly, I saw solid shit. Like solid. And you can tell the difference between a person and not a person, because I even asked you at one point, like, because it was so dark in there, that's not a person, right? Like I don't see feet and I don't see hands. Do you see feet or hand? You're like, yeah, that's a person. You're fine. Like they're really close. It's okay. But the stuff that you saw that you like anatomically could not duplicate with another person, I mean, it was just really intense. I mean, it was just, I've never had an experience where I could physically see something like that.
Yep, absolutely. And same thing. I saw this past time, I saw one solid object. I was like, yep, there she is.
There she is.
Sitting in that chair. So one thing I'd like to do that I have not done yet, I think we should do it, because both times we've been to Mansfield, it's been the daytime.
Yes.
Both times I've been to Waverly, and the one time you've been to Waverly, it's nighttime.
Yeah.
So I want to go to Waverly again and do a daytime tour.
Oh, we feel so much safer in a daytime.
Well, just to get the layout of the place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that way you can really tell the difference, because the night does play tricks on your eyes. And so people could argue, well, the shit you saw,
and the night and fear can play a trick on your mind.
Sure, absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? Like it's not just limited to that. Even if you do have some kind of like gift or ability or what, did we ever land on a term for that? I don't think we ever agreed.
I'm going with medium.
Okay, sure. But like whatever that is, right? Your abilities or whatever.
Sure.
They can be manipulated if it's not a pure experience. So yeah, I would like to do it in the daytime too, just because I'm like, if you read everything that I can do out loud, I could also be diagnosed as schizophrenic. So I need the validation of a daytime tour.
Absolutely. And that's why at the same time, I want to go back to the prison, Mansfield prison, at nighttime. Because I've never been there at nighttime either.
No.
And so, it'd be interesting to see the differences. Because I'm sure they're just like, are you ready for this? Night and day. But there'll be different experiences. So
you'll be alone for that. I can't do that at night. I think I'd puke.
Yeah.
I think I would puke.
I'll go do a ghost hunt at Mansfield. I'm scared.
Overnight. No way.
But we did go to Waverly. We only did the 2-hour tour, so it went by kind of quick. And there was about 25 other people, one of which made me LOL because he was dumb. It was really funny.
Just basic.
but yeah, so let's just start with it. So I know when we went there, we had a safe word, not a safe word, but a
signal.
A signal. And the signal was that when you start feeling stuff, you're going to grab my pinky.
Yes.
So the entire 2 hours, you're squeezing my pinky.
Yes.
Until it was blue.
And yanking. There was a couple of yanking moments too, I remember.
So this tour started out, we did the little room with the heat, and then the lady yelled at me for not wearing a jacket or a coat.
Yeah, you're going to be cold.
Because it's still in a buddy's car from the Royal Rumble, so I didn't have a coat. But I was fine. I was fine because there was ghosties around, and that's what you're concentrating on. You're not concentrating on the cold.
Fair enough.
So after that, we all split the groups up. So in our group, how many people were in our group? Like 25?
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe.
Yeah, there's 25.
I feel like that was. I feel like it was a little less than. I don't know. Yeah, you could be right. I kind of like blacked out all of the people that weren't feeling like me.
Sure.
So I felt two other
people. So you
people.
felt like 32 people?
I felt two other people with energy. Yeah, that were trying to read the room.
So talk about that. Like, so what does that mean?
So yeah, you're right. So let's talk about the waiting room. The waiting room is like the length of a wing, right? So it's like the reception area of a hospital wing is how big it is.
Sure.
And it's packed full of people and everybody's coming in. And we come in. And my first thing is I'm thinking, oh my God, why does it feel so sanitary?
It was a hospital after all.
Sure. But in this room, like it just felt false, it was like, don't get too safe, don't feel too safe, like false security. So I was like, okay, well, I'll be aware. And we're sitting and I'm like trying to make sure that I can feel you and that you're comfortable with the fact that I'm going to be yanking on your finger and all that shit. Well, then as people are filing in, I can like hear them. They're on vacation. They're doing a family trip with their friends or their kids, or they're just like doing this for fun because haha Instagram, or like I can feel all of the people that don't believe.
There was like a 10-year-old in there. Like, what the hell?
Even younger, yeah, I think. But yeah, I mean, it was, so there's all of these different people there with different intentions, and I can feel all of their intentions as they're shuffling into the room, and I'm figuring out who to ignore, which is the majority of the group. But then I start feeling violated, like big time, from like diagonally. There's this guy, and he's like diagonally, he wasn't even in our group. So yeah, they did break us in half. There were probably 60 people, 50 people in that.
I just remember when they split it up, they said, "Oh, I got 24. Well, I got 27," and then they
did the shuffling.
Right.
So yeah, so this
and
guy,
then a few people showed up late in our group too.
They did. So the guy that I'm talking about, he was the one that made me realize I can't ignore this feeling, because it was very domineering. He was trying to be like, I'm the biggest, baddest motherfucker in this room. And I was like, sit the fuck down. So what it feels like is energy. So we're sitting in our area, me and you.
Sure.
And then I feel being scanned. And I felt this before in a couple of other places, like the metaphysical shops, and like just like out in public. And then I find the person that's doing it to me, and I check them and then brain check them. But I felt it, and I was like, nah, dude, take your fucking Pall Mall smoking ass back out to the van that you drove here in and get your validation elsewhere. Get out. And I felt him jump back, like from the push, and he kind of tried to. It feels like light and energy. I don't know how to explain it.
Sure.
But it was just a check. He was trying to scan us, and I didn't like him trying to read you. So I threw him back, and he kind of actually like physically leaned back and then cocked his head and looked and like stared at us until they broke us up, which was like 10 minutes later. He was staring. That's like, remember I whispered to you and said, I do not like that guy.
I remember you talking about somebody.
I don't like that guy.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, but it feels like being violated. Have you ever been grabbed by a stranger? You have been grabbed by a stranger, you told me. But like, have you ever been like sexually violated at work? Inappropriately?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it feels like in your brain. It's like somebody's just grabbing you because they think you can't feel it. So they're just grabbing all of the places that they don't think you can feel. And then you feel it and you're like, get the fuck off me, bro. And then they jump back like, oh, you can tell? well, why can you tell? And how can you tell? And how much can you tell? Show me what it feels like. And it's like, I don't fucking owe you an explanation. Get the fuck out of my space, stay in your corner of the building, and back the fuck off, and do not come near my husband. And that's how it was. Second person was a kid. She was like a teenage girl there with her boyfriend on a date, and they ended up in our group. And she ended up saying out loud way later on that she felt sick. And her boyfriend was like, you're fine. And it was like, that fucker. It was probably his idea to come here.
Probably.
You know, because she felt like, oh my God, I can't tell anybody anymore. And I really do feel like I'm going to puke.
Sure.
And so, you know, but when I felt her, she was just looking around like, it was kind of like a bouncy ball. Like if you played with a bouncy ball in an elevator by yourself, just like, what can I bounce this off of and can I catch it again? So it was kind of like an interactive thing for her. She was like, what can I do? How far will it go? Will it come back to me? And what will it do when it comes back to me? The other guy was just straight up being violating. But those were the two people I felt.
Fair enough. So that's in the lobby itself.
Yes, that's the lobby.
And I'm not sure what that lobby was before it became a waiting room.
I don't know either.
But
it didn't feel like anything.
And this is still the first floor, I believe. So then we... No, that wasn't the first floor. That was the second floor. So that was the second floor that we were on. And then as soon as we did that little thing, and then we went out into... I forget what that room was that we went into first. But the first dark room where she made us line up against the windows.
Ugh, yeah.
And there's a balcony there. I believe it used to be a cafeteria.
She said that. It was a cafeteria. So, like a reception area for people, for guests.
That's
and
right.
You could, people that didn't live there could intermingle with people that did. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's where we went. And then she made us all line up on the window and they showed us a selfie of a ghost in the background of a prior picture.
Yeah.
But here's where I first saw something right away.
Yes.
Along with the crew, like the kid that we mentioned.
To the left.
Yep, to the left of us, there was a family with his dad and a kid. And then straight ahead was one of the hallways where it was open. And that the entire time that lady was talking, me, you, the dad, and that kid were all just staring down this hallway.
We were all leaning in front of each other.
Watching this fucking shadow people, which Waverly is very, very well known for. And now, that being said, this is before this tour guide even brought it up.
So, really fast, just for your listeners, can we break down what we mean by shadow people?
Sure, we can. And basically, shadow people, it's just like the lowest energy of ghosts. And it's just what you see, it's just their energy walking, basically.
What it looks like physically. Like, what does it look like to you, and how can you tell the difference between that and somebody really far down the like a shadow?
Sure. So basically, if you look at light, like a distinct stationary light, and you see shadows going back and forth.
Yep.
And not in a constant, because if it was a constant, it could probably be explained by something else.
Like it would be solid.
Sure.
Right.
So it's just going back and forth, up and down. You just see movement. It's kind of like heat waves. Like, when you're going down the road and you see puddles, and it's that refraction of light. It's kind of that, but instead it's in a dark hallway.
So shadow people look like the absence of light.
Sure.
But they're still moving. You can still see through them.
Right.
I think that's fair. That's my first time seeing a solid shadow.
Yeah, dude.
Like, aside from that one time in the house when I woke you up and made you come down and sage at like 1 a.m.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. That's the closest I'd ever had to being like, I can feel it in my chest. I can see it with my eyes. I can feel it in my back. Something is wrong.
Sure.
And then, but the thing that was hard for me at Waverly was when I saw things like that, I didn't feel the oppression that I normally feel when I see things like that.
That's true.
So it was different. It was very different. It's very unique.
That's fair. And even going back when I was there the first time, I did see shadow people then too.
Did you?
Not as much.
At 21?
At 21. But not as much as this time. There I saw it at the part to where like everybody sees it because it's like so active on the fourth floor. It was the fourth floor where I saw it. But here I saw it everywhere. It was nuts.
Yes.
So before the tour really even started, the tour guide is, in the room talking about the selfies.
Yep.
And us and those people were all just staring, watching this shit move back and forth, and we're like, and they're pointing, and we're like, what? Yep. and the tour just started. Like, we were in there 5 minutes, and it was nuts And that's not something that everybody saw, and that's not something that the tour guide tried to get you to see, because some of that stuff is
they
like
try to guide you.
Sure.
They walk you there. Yeah.
And so like to see it outside of that, and then it could be argued that, well, you're going to see it because they're telling you to see it.
Right.
This is outside of all of that. So it was pretty cool.
So what I saw was different. I didn't just see the shadow. Do you want me to tell you that part now too? Or?
Absolutely.
So I wasn't just limited to the shadow people. The first thing I started to see, and I kept having these like really weird feelings it was like in my chest, but like so deep inside, it wasn't like, and I'm speaking as somebody, I've had COVID twice now.
Sure.
Right? I've had...
Samesies.
Right. Well, I know the difference between an illness and an experience.
Sure.
And there was something happening there that was so organic and just kind of like otherworldly, like outside of myself, that I tried to ignore it. And then they felt me try to ignore it. And then they reacted to it. Like it was like, they were like, oh, so what I saw was like, we're all lined up back against the window so that we can see the picture the way that they told us to see it, blah, 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 blah. I saw people filing out.
Like looking at us?
Yes, from every area, like from behind, like from the area that we had come from the hallway that we were looking at, from the other area to the right that was closed off. I saw just a massive movement. And they were all looking at us like a dog does with his head when he's confused, like cocked to the side. Like, what are you doing here? Because to them, they're like, what are you looking for?
Sure, this is their home.
Like, what are you trying to do? And then when they saw that I could see them and that I didn't want to see them, they were like, well, if you know why, like, what are you here for? You can see us. Everybody else wishes they could. What are you trying to get? What do you want? And what is so interesting about this? And why is everybody so intrigued by this one building when there were so many? And why? And they just kept question. And it was like, I don't know.
I asked the questions here.
Yeah, like, I don't know. And that because I didn't have answers, that didn't make the experience any easier. Sure. Like, it just got more complicated. And they were trying to give me answers before I was asking questions. So it was just like this trying to exist on so many planes at once type of thing. It was really intense.
That sounds intense.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe that. And then, so we walked down that same aisle. Mm-hmm. She showed us the rooms. This was this room with this sister and those stories.
Yeah.
And then,
which was pretty intense. I saw some shit. I saw them, I think. I did.
I don't remember their names, but I did not see them.
No, I saw them. What I kept seeing was like, I saw the moment in time we were in, and then I saw the moment in time that they would talk about, and then I saw the moment in time that the real people that lived it, that came to talk to me, would show me. And sometimes they were pretty accurate, and sometimes they weren't.
Sure.
But I was seeing it all. It was like, I feel like I needed to learn a third language just to be able to explain it as it was happening.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was definitely interesting. And then we went on to the third floor. In the third floor, I don't really remember the details. I think that was the kids' ward. I could be mistaken. But that's where the kid with the ball, that's where a lot of those stories went down. And so, like, there are balls all over this building because of paranormal investigators trying to get these balls to move.
And I liked that the tour guides did specify that you shouldn't just try to lock into one kid.
I like that, too. Because
you shouldn't. Because they were right. She said, if you try to call on one by name, all of the other ones are waiting their turn.
Yep. And, she didn't just guess that. People have told her that. I'm sure other investigators and mediums and psychics, whoever, they probably said, well, we got Susie over here waiting her turn.
Exactly.
So let's not,
And I had the sense that the people that guided us through our tour believed in what they were doing, too.
Oh, absolutely. You about have to work there, I would think. Otherwise, I'd feel like a fraud.
There's a lot of, like, I don't know. It's like this, like, consciousness, this, like, I want to protect the sanctity of the purity. You know what I mean? Like Absolutely. That's what we had there.
And that's kind of how I feel about my show too. Like, I don't want to make shit up because then it becomes pointless.
Right.
It's like everybody else makes shit up. So why it might be any different. So I feel like they're the exact same way.
They are.
And our tour guide, I forget her name. She did it like 16 times, But
I did too.
but you know, she said how she's had her hair pulled, scratches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she also mentioned that nobody's ever really gotten hurt at Waverly, which is something that I thought was interesting with you, because before we came here, you know, we've been to the prison twice, and there the energy was really negative.
God, yes.
And I kind of thought that going here would be the same, because there's been thousands of more deaths here.
Right. I was prepared for that.
Sure. That being said, I even felt it this way too, is it wasn't that heavy or dark or negative. It was a lot lighter. There's a lot more deaths, but
there was also so much more hope.
There was hope. There wasn't torture.
There was not torture.
There wasn't people there against their will.
Wrongful imprisonment.
There wasn't wrongful nonsense.
Right.
It was just people who were sick and people trying to help those people who were sick.
Nobody trying to violate each other's rights. Like, it was very much a center for exploration to heal.
Sure.
And they even, like, we went into the different rooms where they talked about how they tried to do the different techniques, like in surgery and stuff.
Yep.
And those were all exploratory. But it did feel like, I mean, this was 100 years ago that this was, you know, up and running or whatever, but they really were at the forefront of trying to discover,
Sure.
trying to heal, and everybody was there for good intention. So I didn't feel oppressed. I didn't feel like in danger.
Sure.
And like even at Waverly, I know that, or at Mansfield, that's kind of like a strong, like physically I know I'm safe.
Right.
But I know when I am under attack, and I know when I am not. And at Waverly, I was not. And at Mansfield, every time we go,
In the daytime.
we are. So it's different.
Right. And now that's all very true, but there is one exception. Well, two exceptions, I guess, if you count the fifth floor, but there are two exceptions to that, and that's the fourth and fifth floor. Because, and we learned this, I didn't even know this the first time, but we learned this after we saw black shit on the fourth floor, was that back in like the early 80s, they did have people there against their will that they were testing on.
Chained up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the fourth floor was the only floor I felt negative on.
I did. I felt sick.
That's the fourth floor is where I saw the lady in the chair.
Did I? Is that the
That's
floor?
where you said you wanted to throw up, was the fourth floor.
Very loudly, the whole group could hear
Yep.
me.
And so, like, because you mentioned the other day how, you know, this is light except for that one floor.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as like, you know, we did our thing. You said you wanted to throw up. We saw the black shadows come down. We saw all of this stuff on the fourth floor. And after that is when they mentioned, well, this floor, actually, here's the history of this floor.
Yeah.
Back in 1980,
So we didn't.
a nurse came down and saw that there were people actually being held here against the will to do scientific experiments on from this
They
hospital.
were chained
right.
to the rooms.
And they're in their own film.
And so we didn't know that before we weren't.
We learned that after you said you wanted to throw up.
Oh, I didn't know that. I would have thought, just because of the way that I can remember, I would have thought that they told me that ahead of time.
Nope. Because
So I didn't know.
They did their little project first to show you the black stuff.
There was, just speaking of that, there was these dark spots on the floor. And I kept seeing that. And I know, like, lights out, we can't see, we're not allowed to look or whatever, but in total pitch black darkness. Because, like, we also need to explain for people who haven't been there, at Waverly, when you're not allowed to have your lights on and it's dark, there are no other outdoor lights to shed light at all. Like, there's no light coming in from the street. There is no light coming in externally.
There is light because of how open those floors are. You do get natural moonlight.
Yes, you get natural moonlight.
And that's pretty much it.
But that's it. And I could see in all of that darkness these black spots.
Yep. And
it made me. That's my dog.
That was Crowley.
That's what it felt like, Crowley. He knows. That's what it felt like, though. It made me want to deal. I was like, oh, so gross. Like, I feel sick. And so it's interesting to me that you point that out to me, because that's the first floor I was on when I felt my knees buckle. Like, I felt like I'm not going to be able to hold on for much longer.
Sure. That's exactly correct. I remember you saying that. And, you know, and I've always known that the fourth floor is like their party floor. That's like the infamous floor.
Right.
I didn't know there were people trapped there before. Like people that were, you know, chained. I didn't know any of that.
You didn't know that when you were there at 21.
I just knew it was the most haunted floor. And they may have said that back then, but I don't remember if they did. I just remember being the most haunted floor. I remember the story of the kids with the axe trying to get out. I knew that story already.
Oh, that was the same floor.
Same floor. That being said,
see, I forgot that too.
that story was told differently last time I was there. The last time I was there, they didn't mention that they were there part of a group and went back in. they said these kids broke in and the security guards heard them yelling. They didn't mention that there was a whole fucking 200 people there that night.
Oh, shit. So that makes it like...
Their stories do change a little bit, I've noticed.
Well,
they evolve over the years.
So let's just like really fast. Folklore in Kentucky.
Sure. Right.
You know.
But yeah, so I did know that was the most haunted floor. And I didn't know the history of that part, though. Mm-hmm. And then they told us that after some of the stuff that you said.
Like I can feel it.
And do you remember seeing the black thing following the volunteer back? That was nuts.
That's when I thought I was going to puke.
And that was more than just shadow people. When I was there the first time.
That was so big.
So for those of you who have never been there, on the 4th floor, they do it on both sides. So that's a very active hallway. And what they do is they have one volunteer walk all the way down, turn around so you see the light under his legs from the moonlight, and then he just walks slowly back towards us. And every time, a black thing follows him. But the first time I was there, nobody followed anybody. It was just you put your legs. I was the volunteer the first time. You put your legs apart, and you can see the shadow people walking under your legs because
there's going to be a gap of light
basically,
that comes through.
Exactly. All it's doing is you're just focusing on the light between this guy's legs, and you see the things walking, interfering.
So that everybody can understand, the hallway is how long, do you think?
Oh, I'm not very
based
good at
on
guessing.
Memory, though. Like
a couple 100 feet.
So we're standing in pitch black darkness, no external light, none of that. And what your eyes naturally adjust, and what you'll see is that person in the dark moving in the dark, and then the absence of light. But when you see the thing, I don't even know.
This one was different.
It's so intense.
This guy was walking, and dude, everybody saw him. It was a big black blob. Yeah. Right on his right shoulder. His left shoulder.
Did everybody see him, or like did everybody in our group see him, or was it like a majority review, or what was it?
I don't know. I heard a gasp from a couple of people.
I did too.
And I was one of them.
Yeah.
Because being in a group of 25 people, you don't it's hard to see ghosts.
Sure. No, I'm getting excited though. Can you tell me what you saw, and then I'm going to tell you what I saw?
Sure. So walking towards us, it would have been his left shoulder. It would have been his left shoulder on the right-hand side. So you see this light and then a black bubble, not even bubble, but you see it shape-shifting. And as he was walking, it was getting bigger, and then it walked in front of him, and then it would go back behind him, and then he would get wide. And then he would go behind him, and it was really, really weird.
It moved a lot.
And he didn't seem friendly to me. To me, he felt like he was being a dick.
So what I saw was, it was like, I don't know, it was bigger than people.
Yeah.
But it was the shape of people. But it moved like an insect.
It morphed.
Yeah, so it kind of took the shape of whatever it needed to. But here's the thing about poltergeists. They're attracted to phenomena. They're attracted to groups that are afraid of one object, blah, blah, blah. Sure. Like I can break that down some more. So it could have been that, or it could have been part of the building. But what I saw was a mass that was probably twice the size of a normal person, and it moved like an insect. And it's the thing that I kind of like have become the most concerned about recently. It was eating the energy.
Sure. That makes sense.
That guy was alone in that hallway, and he was going to be alone for this many more feet, and that thing was fucking hungry, and it knows it can come here to get the food, and it can be that big because it's had that many meals.
And think about that. They do these tours every Friday and Saturday.
Correct.
And then Sunday through Thursday, they have the big, they have their private tours there.
Yeah.
So it's feeding time.
It's eating.
Yep.
It's just eating all the time.
It's feeding time. It knows the times, So like these days we're dormant. This time, there's an 8 o'clock tour, there's a 9 o'clock tour, there's a 10 o'clock tour. So this time of this day, my eating time.
Food walks in through his little trap like a spider web.
Yeah.
And he gets to come down and eat the bug.
Correct.
And that's what it felt like. It was and that's how we pounced on the guy. It was like, food. Like that guy's probably going to go home and have like a sinus infection or a cough or whatever. And he's
probably thinks he's got COVID because of the group.
he's gonna be like, I don't want to take a no COVID test, man. But then he's gonna take a COVID test and be like, well, it's negative, so COVID's not real. And the reality is, he was food.
But now, before we move on,
he was appetizers.
So I want to talk about the first guy because that was actually the second volunteer.
Yeah, God, the first guy was a puss.
The first volunteer was some hillbilly dude, and as soon as the guy was like, "Hey, who wants to walk down there? I'll do it.
I'll do it."
And then, okay, well, here's what you do. You walk down there, you turn around, you say that you're there, and then I'll tell you to walk, and then you walk slowly back to us. Okay. And then as he was walking down, he kept getting lost. He kept looking into the rooms, walking real slow, and the guy was like, hey, are you in the middle? No, I'm looking in the rooms. Stop.
Stay in the middle.
Go in the middle. Go to the bomb. He got to the very end, turned around, and then basically ran back.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, you're not... He's like, oh, I went down in the end and came back. He's like, no, the whole point was for you to stay, but that's okay. We'll get a new guy.
And we did.
It made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, because that guy was the guy that probably drove his Dodge fucking pickup truck.
It was pretty funny. It's like, dude, why did you not stay there? But yeah, I don't know if he was scared or if he was just dumb. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it made me laugh either way. So that was the fourth floor. And then, so up until this point, my experience was I saw a lot of shadow things. I saw a lot of movements. I felt, the whole feeling stuff that people want to hear about because they can't relate to it. But, a lot of that. And now, from there, we met back with the other groups. We had to walk all the way down the hallway from our end to the other end, which was pretty far. If you guys go online, you'll see the pictures I took of the outside building. You can just look up Waverly Hills. You'll see the back of the building. And we had to walk from one end all the way to the other on the fourth floor.
I don't even remember this walk.
Well, this is where I saw the lady. So, and we were walking pretty quick because we had to meet back with the other group because that's where the tour continued. So as we were walking, and they even mentioned, if you use your peripheral vision, you might see something, which is kind of, suggestive. But I'm walking, so instead of using my peripheral vision, I'm just looking into the rooms. And just to see what I see, if I don't see anything, whatever. But I'm walking, and I look in, and I swear to God, I see a lady sitting in a chair in the corner right by our door frame. And at this point, we kind of stop for a second. I'm just, staring at her. And, her eyes are closed, and she's just sitting in this chair. And solid.
Is she, rocking?
Nope.
Is it a rocking chair
Nope.
or a wheelchair?
It was just a chair. Not rocking.
Solid
it was just
chair.
an old, solid wooden chair.
Okay.
And this lady, and I thought she looked like she was dead. But I don't know if that's the truth. But I saw her face, I saw her eyes, they were closed. And and at this point, I stopped for a second. And I'm just staring. And at this point, the group kind of slowed down a little bit. Because we're towards the end anyway, so I wanted to be at the end. And I wanted to take a picture of her, but my phone's so slow. And the people were behind me. And I'm just staring as we're walking. And I remember walking away and I just see, she was in that chair. Swear to God.
So this is the floor that I was on when I said I wanted to puke.
Fourth floor. Yes, ma'am. This is all the same floor.
Yeah. So, yeah. She was coming at you to try to, show you. I think the thing is in every other part of the building, they come at you why are you here? What's so interesting? But then the fourth floor, they're the people that had to live in chains.
Sure. Back in 1980, which is insane.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So the people that were in chains, the ones that are at peace, are get the fuck out of here. I'm not even going to be here. I'm not going to grace you with my presence.
Sure.
But then there's this group of people that are no, you need to understand how close this was and how awful it was, how recent, how capable we are of doing it again. That's their biggest fear. You are capable of doing this again.
Oh, yeah, humans suck.
Yeah, and this wasn't 100 years ago. This wasn't 80 years ago. This was within living memory. So what are we doing?
40 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know. That fucking hallway. I don't even want, if we do an overnight, I cannot go on it because if I go down that rabbit hole, there's so much opportunity for illness and nothing good can come of it. And I'm not saying that they're suffering needlessly. It's just, I can't engage.
Sure. That was the only floor that was like that. But before that, we actually did the fourth floor last. So before that, we went to the fifth floor. And that was where the roof was. And I feel like the roof is where the party is.
The roof is where the party is.
The fourth floor is where the darkness is. The fourth floor, dude, it was positive. It was light, in my opinion. And what's funny about that is the fifth floor is the famous 502 room. And that's right outside the door where they found the lady hanging.
I didn't see that.
And there's multiple, well, that lady did hang.
Well, no, I know.
That's a fact.
But
sure.
I didn't see a suicide.
I didn't either. I didn't see anything in that room. Like, I took
a
picture of where she hung herself, and, the elevator was there where the guy came out and found her dead body. That happened.
The elevator, which is where the trauma memory is.
That's probably from that guy.
I felt the elevator. Because the girl even said, well, we don't know where she really hung. And I was like, well, maybe she died in the elevator.
No, she hung right in front of the elevator.
Sure, but what I felt was the pain is in the elevator, which means the pain is in the memory of the person that saw it.
Right.
Not the person that did it, not the other people. It was the first person that showed up. He probably knew her personally or something.
Sure.
But the trauma response is in the elevator. It's not in the death site.
Sure. And when I was there the first time, they said that they found her hanging right in the door from a 502. Now they've learned that she wasn't hanging there. She was actually hanging in the lobby between the elevator and 502.
Right.
But whatever. I didn't feel anything negative there. So, we went into 502. There's a bathtub. There's a couple bathrooms and a shower, whatever. Didn't feel anything bad. And then we went onto the roof.
Yeah.
And the roof, I felt positive energy.
I had so much positive energy.
And I started taking pictures on the roof. I've never believed in orbs. But I was seeing live orbs on my camera when I was trying to take pictures in action. And I've taken, and they can say, well, it's dust. My house is dusty as fuck. And I take pictures and there's no dust.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I saw, because there's a skylight there.
There is a skylight there.
I kept seeing like something bouncing off the roof, whether it was like a crashing star or it could have been that lady's soul.
Sure.
Just the bliss of release.
Somebody,
It wasn't a bad thing, but it was this crash over and over and over again.
Bouncing against the thing and coming back up.
And coming back up over and over, just bouncing back up over and over. And even I kept trying to show you, look, do you see that? Look, nobody else saw it. It was a physical thing. I actually, with my eyes.
Sure, not cameras, just your eyeballs.
My eyeballs. Star falling, bouncing on the building, bouncing back up into stratosphere. Like, just bounce. And it happened on a loop. Just boom, 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 boom. And that could also be, like, the source of the energy that keeps...
everything there.
Yeah.
That's something to think about.
It could be the heart of Waverly. It could be... Because, like, you haven't read American Gods, but in American Gods, they talk about how when... everybody from everywhere wants to come to a common place. It's like you're being drawn there because something from the earth is telling you this is special.
Sure.
I think that's where I saw is the thing from the earth that made it special. The bouncing, it was a star bouncing off the building.
Right.
On a loop, a continuous loop. I even made you take a couple pictures of it, and you can kind of see like a distant light in the background, right. But you don't see the crash, and I saw it on a fucking loop over and over and over again. Like, I couldn't stop looking at that skylight. It was beautiful.
Yep.
And then we went on the 5th floor, and I was at
we went outside onto the balcony,
onto the roof.
Yep.
I felt such peace. It was like,
neat.
This is what life is supposed to be. It's supposed to be possibility. It's supposed to be beauty. It's supposed to be
and that's where
comfort.
And I got a really good picture on that roof.
Yeah.
Like, it was like just a white light, dude. And it's like, well.
They're crashing.
Yep. Some people say it's cat hair, but it's not going to be cat hair.
There weren't cats.
There's no cats on the 5th floor of Waverly Hills. It was definitely, the roof is like where the party was, in my opinion.
The picture that you're talking about where there's big streak of light.
Yep.
Yeah, no, like.
And I saw that light. As I took the picture, I saw it pop up. And I took 3 in a row. And it wasn't there for the first 2. And the 3rd one, I just saw it, like, with my visible eyes.
Yeah.
And then I also caught it on camera. And, like, I was never one to believe, like, people could see orbs. I thought it was stupid. And then I saw one.
No, I'm pretty sure that's the thing that I saw crashing into the skylight.
Probably the same thing.
It was the same thing. It was this motion of, like... It was almost like I could see into the nucleus of Waverly.
Sure.
That light it's the thing that gets everybody coming back. It's the thing that everybody is attracted to. It's the thing that, it's the center. It's the energy. And it showed itself. And it was just this, like, bouncing. I mean, it would have, 20 years ago, I would have been like, that's an alien. It's definitely an alien.
Right.
Because it's moving in this weird continuous way, and there's this energy it's giving off and feeding off of, and I would have been like, no, that's definitely a fucking alien. No, it's not. It is the thing that protects Waverly.
I believe that.
And that's why the roof feels so clean.
It did feel clean. It even looked so clean compared to the other floors.
And it's a place where everybody went to die of tuberculosis. So why would it feel clean?
That's a good point. And then, so you went from there. Then we went down to the first floor, where happens to be the morgue. And the morgue was very tiny. And I didn't see anything in the morgue. I took a lot of pictures. Nothing really popped up. But I did see where the girl got stuck in the, what do you call it?
Thing.
The thing where you put dead bodies.
The body shoot. Or no, that wasn't body shoot.
That comes next.
Was that's the autopsy room.
Yeah.
So here's my thing about that. Sometimes people want to get reactions from the things that they do. And I'm not saying that's what she did.
Sure.
But I didn't feel anything there.
I didn't either.
You know where I felt some shit, though? It was the hallway.
That's fair. And I think the first floor is where I want to go and do a real ghost hunt. Because I feel like the first floor, that's the check-in room, the front of the building I've never seen. And I feel like there'd be a lot of energy there.
There is.
Because that's where everybody's anxious.
Everybody's anxious.
You know what I mean?
And that's where you're like doing the drop off. I'll never see you again. Can I come back?
Right.
Like, that's where all the uncertainty lies.
Exactly.
Is in the first floor.
So, like, you go to the living rooms. I mean, you're living there. So that's just your day-to-day.
How close is that in relation to the morgue?
Oh, the same floor. We get there next.
Maybe that's what I was feeling then.
Yeah,
because I was like, there isn't anything here.
Yeah. The other side is...
It felt so sick.
The other side is the check-in.
Yeah, like
so we saw the back. We just saw the morgue and then the death chute. If he would have kept walking around the corner, that's where the check-in was.
My legs buckled twice in that building.
That's where I want to go. That's by the check-in.
Right there was the second time. Yep. Like, because the first time my legs kind of gave out, I was like, well, maybe I need to eat a banana.
some vitamin B.
I mean, yeah, like I was like, maybe I'm a little vitamin deficient or hungry or, there was that time because I had a seizure and it's the same kind of feeling where you're like, but the difference is if you surrender to the moment in a seizure, you're going to have a seizure. If you surrender to the moment in an experience, you're going to get clarity.
Sure.
So I surrendered to the moment to get clarity, and I felt like if I kept going in the opposite direction, I was going to get really, really sick.
And I think that's
the intake room.
That was check-in.
That makes a lot of sense because, like, I kept feeling like I don't ever want to turn around. I don't want to go behind, and I wanted you to be very close. And you always want me to walk in front of you, but in Waverly, I wanted you to be in front of me because I was like, I don't want you to be exposed to what I can see, like get the, but sure. You made me go in front of you and I was like, I can feel my knees buckle. And like, that was probably a Yankee and Pinky moment where I was like, I think I'm going to collapse. Like the body shoot didn't bother me. The hallway before the body shoot bothered me.
And that makes sense too. So, one thing I want to say before we move on is there was that one story of the morgue where a girl wanted to go into the thing where you put dead bodies. She went in and then they came back 20 minutes later for her and she was curled up and scared and crying. And she claimed that all of her stuff shut off and she couldn't get out. That being said, I'm not sure how old she was, but you're a young person who is in the dark in a very confined space by yourself.
With a lot of activity.
That's something I would need to do for myself to actually believe or not believe.
Same.
I'm not going to.
However, I don't have the courage to.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
I'm not going to do what she did. I also don't want to do that rape victim thing where we blame the victim.
That's a good point.
I don't want to do that.
Sure.
But I will say, in that room, when I saw the shoot, I was in that room with like 10 other people. Because it was a quick take a picture, get the fuck out.
Right.
Maybe if we do an overnight, if I could get into it, we can see if there's a difference. Sure. But genuinely, the most feeling I had was in the hallway.
That makes sense. And I'm going to tell you why this makes sense. And even our tour guide kind of mentioned it a little bit. She said, and it makes sense in my opinion, the death chute in the morgue, you're already dead.
Right.
So...
what are you doing?
Theoretically, if you're a ghost, you're not going to be where your dead body was.
Because you want to go look around.
You're going to be where you were. That being said, where graveyard's haunted. So what the fuck do I know?
So here's what actually happens when your body is like fresh dead. The first thing you do is you go to the people that you're the closest to.
Makes sense.
And let's think about that in context of Waverly. Now, this is just what I've come to understand talking to the people I know. But let's go into Waverly. Are we going to visit each other if you've got tuberculosis and I don't? Like, do I have access to you? So you're stuck, kind of.
Sure.
And you're trying to figure out how to get out and go see the next thing.
That makes sense.
I mean, like, the girl really could have had an experience.
Oh, for sure.
But I didn't feel anything in that room.
I didn't either.
I felt it in the hallway.
Me too. And that's why I wanted to go, because I felt it in the hallway too.
Big time.
And I wanted to go to the right. And then as I was I was hoping we were going to go to the right.
Where it hit me in the spine.
Because I was like, let's go to the right. Because I knew that the death chute was to the left. And I was like, hopefully we go to the right next. So then she explained, well, the right was the admissions, blah, 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 blah. If you do the overnight, you can go there. I was like, well, son of a bitch.
I mean, they were just selling the overnight.
There's a big overnight sale, which is sold out through September. So fuck you guys. And then we went to the death chute.
The death chute.
And now here's the big difference. When I was there 12 years ago, we ended the tour in the death chute. We walked all the way down, we came out, and then we walked up outside back to the building, back to the parking lot. Mm-hmm. They since changed it. We go maybe 1/4 the way down.
Oh, that's only a fourth.
Yeah, we didn't go very far.
Well, that's why I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, and so we went like that far down, a little bit far down, but like barely. We barely went down. And then take your picture from the far distance, and then go back up.
And then you're not allowed to walk in the ramp because I got yelled at.
Yeah, we both got yelled at for that.
I was just trying to do what felt natural. I got to get out of the way and get out.
I think the stairs are more dangerous than the ramp, in my opinion,
too.
because the space between them.
And you're gonna stub your toes.
Exactly.
Like those are not
You're gonna kick the damn thing.
Those stairs are designed for going down, not for coming up.
But Vince, remember Vince's name. Vince wasn't having it.
He was like, "Get off the," and I was like, "Shit, I am on the ramp. My bad, dude."
But come down, Vince. We're fine. We're
the
adults.
ramp was so much easier to walk on, though. If I'm being honest.
So that was the one disappointment I had, because like the death chute was where a lot of people have experiences. So I wanted to go down all the way.
I do think that there was probably something waiting there at the bottom.
Yeah, I agree, because I took pictures of that, and with
like
my
a light.
With my eyes and with my camera, I swear I saw something looking back at me.
Yeah,
and nobody else was really saying anything.
It was trying to get us. It was trying to get us to come down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I took pictures with my phone. I looked back, and my phone shows exactly what my eyes see, which you can't really tell, but I could feel it. There's something down there waiting.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they stopped. And there was a story that they said after the fact that if you walked all the way down, actually before the fact, you walked all the way down, and there was a SWAT team there for whatever crime that happened.
Oh, yeah, and they were afraid.
And they got scared and ran away. But like, I swear there was something down there. And she mentioned that the cops heard growling, and growling, in my opinion, is more like demonic than it is ghost.
I agree with that.
So like, I don't know, but there was something down there.
There is. But here's the thing about like the Waverly isn't just the purity. Like, okay, so the thing that we've done the most is Mansfield, because we've done that a couple of times.
Sure.
Mansfield has a feeling is that it is what it is, right? Waverly is different because it's also this like source of energy where it draws people in.
Yeah, there's people there every day. Yep.
It draws people in as food. And then, but it also like the myths that people create based off of their experiences are also food. So everybody having their own experience and everybody talking about their experience and everybody interpreting it a different way, that's all food to Waverly. So now it gets to be this like iconic, like historic thing. And not being able to go down to the bottom of the body chute this time, whereas 12 years ago you could, the difference is it's more food. Like it's a legacy. It's an ideology. It's a salesmanship to get you to spend more money. So like as commerce takes over that area, you're going to develop a whole new hungry monster.
No, you're not wrong.
And that's where we start to kind of warp perceptions about what is real, what isn't, what is authentic, what isn't. But there genuinely was something hungry down there. I just don't know if it was hunger based on an experience that happened in the building, a hunger based on the commerce that they're trying to bring into the building.
The creation that it is.
And I won't know until I get down there.
Sure, which we will eventually after September.
Yes.
And then that's pretty much where the tour ended. And then we went to the gift shop, and all they had were shirts.
And crystal necklaces that were only $10. And if they're only $10, it makes me wonder, like, the authenticity of the crystals.
Come on, Waverly. Like, the Mansfield prison has whiskey glasses.
Yeah.
And that's what I was hoping to get at Waverly. And
Did you want to talk about the names I heard? Or?
Oh, for sure. So while we were in there, that's one thing that you're really good at is kind of like talking to these guys. And so as we were walking through, there's one time in particular where you're like, remember these names. And then you said it.
Rattled them off.
And that was walking back from the tunnel.
They had talked to me kind of throughout. Right. Yes. So there were, and we looked them up, and I got 2 out of 3 right.
I'll take 66.6%. Oh, 66.6%.
More food. So I heard the names Steele, like Steele, and they spelled it. And I don't know if that's because my name is funky and I have to spell it all the time. So they were like, this is familiar.
Sure.
Steele, 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 Steele. And so they told me Steele. And then I heard Lucinda, but shortened to Lucy. And then I heard Bartholomew, shortened to Barry. And the only names that verified were Lucy. Lucy, there's one Lucy that was a patient there. One. And there are 2 Steeles that worked there. There's no Barry. No Barry, no Bartholomew.
Well, there was a Barry just with an E, not an A.
No, well, yes. And there were like other names surrounding that were kind of weird, but I was like, it's not Beulah. Like, It's not. And I was like, this isn't it. And I had to stop being confrontational about it and kind of accept the limitations because they also could have been telling me the name of a descendant that is still living or, I mean, they could be telling me anything anywhere and I only had 2 hours with however many other people in the building.
Think about that. You had 2 hours in a building with 60 plus people in it.
Yeah. So there's that. So
there are 2 groups going on.
If I could go back and have some individual one-on-one time, but the thing that was hard for me was everybody wanted one-on-one time. And there was like a queue of 10,000. And that's why there was these 2 moments where I could feel my knees buckle, where I was like, if I just like let go and let God or let Jesus take the wheel, I will lose my consciousness. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I can't, but there were these like jelly leg, like, you know how when you're on the elevator and it lands a little fast?
Sure.
It kind of felt like that. But then you're like, okay, well, but it feels like that and you're not on an elevator. So you're like, I can do one of 2 things. I can ignore and push through or I can let go and see what happens. I've let go and see what happens before and I've had a seizure.
Which we've done.
Yeah, which we've done and we've done here and it's been a little crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my thing was, fuck that. No, I'm not with an audience of 60 people. Like I've done some weird shit and I've had a seizure and it's not a comfortable experience. Sure. It's not comfortable. There's no dignity in it. And if I want to go back to my hotel room and have fun, that's not what I want to do.
We got Jefferson's to drink. Yeah.
But it was like, I could feel it. It was external and internal at the same time. Like it was just like this. I couldn't hear, but I could. I couldn't see, but I could. I couldn't feel, but I could. And it was all happening at the same time, and it was a crash. And it was literally, the only way that I can explain it is this is a crash of 10,000 souls against mine, and me not being able to catch them all and feeling weak at the knees.
That's kind of sad you put it that way.
But that's what happened, and it happened twice. It happened on the 4th floor when we were walking out. Sure. When we were in it, they were like, they're going to interact. They're going to ask. They're going to try to look. They're going to find. They're going to hear my story. They're going to make me feel better. They're going to take it home to my family.
Sure.
When not a soul did that.
They get pissy about it?
No. They get depressed.
Well, that's worse.
They get sad. They feel despair. And I felt all of the hope leave. And I felt it in my body. And it felt like I was going to pass out. I mean, I was just going to pass out, especially after we saw the thing down that hallway. And that's what made me want to throw up. We're here to watch this thing try to devour.
Sure.
But we're not going to try to fix what is causing that.
The people who are here.
We need to give healing.
Sure.
Right?
Which is what that place was.
Yeah. We need to heal them. And they keep coming back trying to be healed, but we're eating off of their fear. And then giving this other thing the opportunity to eat off of our fear that's based off of their fear. So there's this like 2nd, 3rd generation of fear that's being fed. And it's
fair enough.
Really, I mean, like sick. Like I keep wanting to touch this right here where my neck and my back connect to make it feel better because it's like that's where I can feel the sickness. It's just, I feel it in my body. It's so sick. And then the other place that I felt it really happen was the room where they performed the surgeries, the exploratory surgeries.
Yeah. Yep.
But I felt that in a different way because I've had so many surgeries. And so
tell them that story.
Oh, it's so weird. I think I was interacting with doctors because they were like examining me, and it was so I broke my foot when I was 2, jumping off of like a step. I broke my femur when I was 9, riding a bike. I broke my right wrist falling off the monkey bars in the 1st grade. So and I got bit by a dog when I was 2, and it was bad enough to where they had to do reconstructive surgery to my face. So I've had lots of surgeries, lots of x-rays, lots of interactions with emergency equipment and care and that kind of thing.
Sure.
When we were in the room where they did the exploratory surgeries, where they talked about how they removed like 7 ribs or whatever. Ugh, God.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Ugh. But the thing that didn't bother the 7 ribs thing, didn't bother me because I was like, oh, that's kind of like the doctor's equivalent of trying to pop a zit back then. They're trying to figure out how to cure and give people relief.
Their organs back.
Right. So you've got people that are like, well, we pop zits. And then we got people that are like, don't pop zits because that's bad for your skin and it will leave scarring and blah, 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 blah. Do not remove ribs because you'll die. Remove ribs because you'll breathe, right? Like those were our schools of thought, right? But in that room, I felt such hope. Every person that got wheeled in there thought I could get better. And when I went into the room where they sterilized the equipment, I made it a point not to touch a fucking thing in that building. You always make sure to tell me before we go in, don't touch anything.
Don't steal shit either.
Right, because I'm kind of a klepto. And I always want to put my hands into fists, and I put them in my pocket. And I make a totem for this kind of thing where I can channel my energy to. So I'm holding my totem, and I'm holding on to you. But in this room, I could let everything go because what I felt was doctors' intentions and their examinations. They were picking up all of the parts of me that I broke. My arm, my leg, my ankle, because I've rolled it so many times. What's that called when you don't break it, but you...
I don't know, roll it?
Not a fracture, but a sprain.
Oh, sprain.
I've sprained that a bunch. So they were like basically straight up like, oh, I'm so excited to be able to give a physical exam. And they were touching me. And they were touching me with these like light fingers. Like it was like genuinely, I've only ever been felt that way in a sterile environment by a doctor. And the way that they touched me, it was the same way that I was touched after I had my surgeries for my leg. And they were so interested in my leg. Because if I would have had that injury during their time, I would have been paralyzed. So they were so like...
how are you walking right now?
Yeah, and they kept feeling up and down my leg. Wow. There's like 4 spots. They hit where my thigh connected to my pelvis bone. They hit where my knee like connected to the lower leg. But then they hit these 3 other points, and every fucking point they touched is where my femur had splintered. Now that I'm remembering it, I have copies of the X-rays I can show you. But my femur was in 3 spots. And they touched every single spot that it broke to be like, how? And that's the noise I kept hearing. How? And they were so grateful that I came into their facility having healed from this because they wanted to learn from it.
Sure.
So the only thing I touched in that room is the knob where they said that they sterilized the equipment. And the only reason I touched it is because I had rods put in my leg from my knee to my hip on each side of my femur. There was 2.
Sure.
And they were there to support the bone growth as I healed. And I was supposed to have them for the rest of my life. And I actually only had them from September to January.
Oh, nice.
My leg healed so quickly. And that was what was amazing to them. They were like, how? Not just how are you walking and how did your leg keep growing, but how could we remove these objects? And they were so thankful for the science that they could be at the forefront of. So I touched the knob.
That started it all.
Where they sterilized equipment such as what was used on me. That's the only fucking thing in that building I touched. And the reason I touched it was to say thank you because I can walk today.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was a good building.
It was. And that's the thing. Like, it was overall, some negative, but overall positive.
Very positive.
Unlike
so much different
other
than
places.
Mansfield.
So, yeah, it's really cool that, you know, it is a hospital. And for the most part, it was to help people and to be better and to fix things. Mm-hmm. So we're definitely going to go back.
Yes.
Definitely going to do a overnight 8-hour paranormal investigation.
After September, apparently.
After September, because it's booked through September. But that's all right. We'll get there. And, yeah, it's going to be awesome. So that's going to wrap up this episode. We're officially an hour in. So, yeah, thank you for telling me your stories.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is. I mean, it is your husband's podcast.
It is my husband's podcast.
Husband of Dena's podcast. Yeah, it was a really cool place. And we're going to keep doing this. We're going to go to other places. We're going to find, you know, we're going to do what I wanted to do
Deep
last
dives.
year. And, you know, there's all kinds of places around here that we could stay at and go to.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to do episodes just like this.
So much fun.
Following that travel. So be on the lookout for that. And again, big thanks to Eric for hanging out on the show and telling us his story. Also, huge thanks to Dena for hanging out and telling our experience of that tour. And yeah, guys, so that was a great time. Hope you all enjoy the episode. Be sure to go to Apple, wherever you get your podcast, leave us reviews, go to my Facebook pages. I did post pictures of the Waverly Hill trip on Facebook. I'll be posting more as I go through them and kind of see, you know, different things. So yeah, so until next time, guys, let's continue to learn about the paranormal together.